Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the TS4 webinar series, proudly brought to you by the Sydney Southeast Asia Center, the Nordic Institute of Asian Studies, and the New York Southeast Asia Network. My name is Sawani Alexander from Ubon Ratchathani University, Thailand. I'm your host today, and in this session, I'm joined by my colleague, Dr. Thanachate Wisaijorn from the Faculty of Political Science, Ubon Ratchathani University. Good afternoon, Thanachate. If he's unmuted.
Hello, good afternoon. Sorry,
very
unmuted
good.
myself. Yes.
Thank you. Thanachate has 3 masters from 3 different universities, one in translation from Chulalongkorn University, Thailand, and the other 2 in international relations, one from Thammasat University, Thailand, and the other from Durham University, the UK. And he just received his PhD in international relations from Loughborough University. You can see his full bio on the TS4 website. Today, Thanachate is going to spend about 20 minutes on his talk entitled Language Choice as a Political Tool. And then we save the rest of our time for until 3 p.m. So we basically have 1 hour on Q&A. So Thanachate, are you ready?
Yes, I can't wait to talk to everyone. So first of all, I have to say hello to the audience, to everyone here. And the topic of my presentation today is titled Language Choice as a Political Tool. And first of all, I would like to share about the background of this presentation. And the information of this presentation is from my fieldwork on my PhD dissertation, and still that information has been dragged on after I graduated from the UK. And during my PhD time and still now, I have the Thai-Lao Mekong border as the fieldwork and major fieldwork. And I have been engaging with people in the field. So working with them, I have observed the patterns of language and political communication in that area, and therefore I have some observation to talk about it today with everyone. So today's discussion actually is a self-introduction of myself, and you know, Dr. Sawani Alexander has talked about myself a little bit, and maybe I will talk a little bit more about maybe not my education background, but my work, my publication, a little bit, because it's related to the topic today. And the next topic is about the research question of this topic of presentation. And then I will talk about the research setting. I will take you to where I have been working. And lastly, of the last part of my presentation today is about the theoretical reflection and some of the theoretical discussion and conclusion for today. Dr. Alexander has talked about me already. So this is about my university. It's in Ubon Ratchathani in Thailand. And Dr. Alexander and I have been working here for decades, maybe 10 years, no, 30 years. So it's part of my PhD dissertation, and actually the PhD presentation is about the everyday border crossing in the Thai-Lao border. That's the main topic for my PhD presentation. But the discussion today is not about the everyday crossing, it's about the language choice. So it's a little bit different, but the data acquisition is from the same source. I will talk about the selection of Lao dialects of the undocumented Lao laborers in Ubon Ratchathani, and you know, the choice, it affects a lot about the trust building. And trust building, if anthropologists will know that trust building is important source whenever we enter the field. And I will talk about this later. Yeah, I talk about myself now. Yeah, because of this Thai-Lao border is my fieldwork. And I have published 2 books already. If you're interested or you want to find out more, you can buy my books in the future. The left one I published with Palgrave Macmillan. It's about the field work I have been conducting research. It's riverine border practice in the Thai-Lao border and everyday border crossing, and it was published last year. On the right-hand side is space and time on Thai-Lao relations. This is mainly international relations theory, and I will focus more on the borderlands. It will be launched next month, no, in June, in 2 months' time. So yeah, the two books maybe more or less is about the topic today. Okay, let's get back to the topic today. I entered the field of the Thai-Lao border as anthropologist. And we know that anthropologists, we have to be with the people. And sometimes, but sometimes, most of the time, class or positionality and gender affects data acquisition a great deal. For example, if I want to look for the ways in which the undocumented laborers or stateless people cross the border from Laos side to Thailand, I have to be with them. I have to talk to them. And everyone knows that if we just go straight to ask them question, hello, can you give me information? How many times you cross the border, and are you legal or are you illegal? Of course, they won't give you an answer easily. They will be suspicious. Why this guy is coming to ask me a question? Is this lad a police officer? Is he a spy? So I have been thinking what to do to gather the information. And before I entered the field, I could find 2 ways to build trust. The first strategy is that I will volunteer to the community to be an English teacher. I taught the children in the area English. And in the Thai-Lao context, if you are a teacher, no one wants to be suspicious about your intention. And that's one step of trust building. And the second strategy, I decided to use the accent, the Lao accent and the Isan accent, to change the accent. That was my speculation, because Isan and Lao People Democratic Republic, which is the Lao state, we shared similar language. And if you look at the history, it was even claimed to be one ancient state, the same Lan Sang state, before the modern state of Siam and Thailand was established. And so I decided that whenever I encounter the Lao undocumented laborer, I would change my accent. I would not use Isan accent. I would use Vientiane dialect, which is the capital city and the official language of Laos, because I decided that these 2 strategies would be fundamental to build trust with me. Because when the undocumented laborer, they saw me, they thought, oh, this guy is from the middle class, so he might want something. I won't give him information easily. So yes, first, being a teacher. Second, change the language. And if you ask the question, the research question asks that, is it effective? My hypothesis is that it would be effective. But when I found out, the answer was that, yeah, being a teacher was very effective. Nobody wants to question my intention when I ask the children, how many times you cross the border illegally? How many times you just cross the border without having to resort to any immigration? The school students gave me an answer in an essay writing, because I was a teacher. They didn't ask me question. They didn't ask, oh, why would the teacher ask me this question? So the school children, they weren't suspicious about being a teacher. So the first strategy was working very well. However, the second one somehow backfires, because after I finished school, the school ended in Thailand. School ended at 4 in the afternoon, and Khong Tiem, in the area, it was the area where red light district and somewhat undocumented laborer was A lot of them were engaged with human trafficking in the area. And when I went to the place where human trafficking was accused of, a lot of people did not trust me. You know, I have to show you this map first. This is the map of Thailand and Laos PDR. And you know, somehow the area I was working is number 5 over here. If you see the river Mekong, the Mekong River, it borders Thailand. The length is 1,810 kilometers. That's the whole length. But the Mekong is only 1,108 of the river. It means that the river is not always the border. Sometimes it's the overland. And Ubon Ratchathani is the province that has these two characters. In the northeast of Ubon Ratchathani, it was the riverine border. But below Khong Chiem is the overland border. That's why we heard the news that people crossed the border and collect mushroom and were arrested, because it was not the river. It was Chong Mek, it was the overland. So I decided to go this area, which is the conjunction of the riverine and the land border. So this is the place where I was working since 2016 from 2017, but up to now, before the COVID-19. But after COVID-19, I just withdrew from the area already. But yeah, I'm talking about the past information. So this is the area over here I was working. And this area, you know, if you look at the map, of course, if you look at many research, it has been proved that the transnationality of the people, the flow of the people to look for jobs, for their better economic jobs, they usually come from the less or the slower economic rapid. For example, from Laos PDR to look for a job in Thailand because there is more job opportunities. And of course, a lot of people cross the border. A lot of people from Laos PDR cross the border to look for a job in Thailand. Of course, there has been research in Nong Khai, in Mukdahan, in Nakhon Phanom. A lot of people from Laos PDR cross the border to look for a job in Thailand. And in Khong Chiem as well, a lot of people from Laos PDR look for a job in Thailand. And yeah, sometimes it's not only along the border cities of Laos. Sometimes it can be deeper. For example, I talked to one girl from Pak Song. She used to work in the coffee plantation because it was too little paid. So she decided to cross the border in Chong Mek, which is in the southern Laos. But that's not surprising. What surprises me, you know, Khong Chiem is here, Chong Mek is here. If Lao people in the south, which speak language in southern dialect and similar toศรีสะเกษ accent and Ubon accent, cross the border, that's not surprising. But if you walk along the market of Khong Chiem, you hear the accent of people from Udom Sai around here. Luang Prabang accent can be found in the market of Khong Chiem, and Vientiane as well. That's in the market in daytime. And at nighttime, I, as a teacher, go to the karaoke bar. In Thai Lao context, if you go to karaoke bar, there's a sexual connotation. But I'm not sure if in the Western sense, you might have some difficulty to understand why karaoke is linked with sexual connotation. But in the Thai Lao context, you know, there's a prostitution hidden in that. And I collected the confirmation in the karaoke bar, and I could hear Vientiane accent from the girls. I could hear Luang Prabang accent. Sometimes 12 Panay accent is heard here. It's very surprising. But it's very rare. But Vientiane and Luang Prabang was common. But at one time, I heard like Thai Lư accent, and I asked the lady for Line account, and she didn't have Line account. She had WeChat, which is Chinese application for chat. You know, it means that it could be assumed that she's from somewhere else in the north, you know. And but these people, they didn't stay for 3 days. After the 3rd day they disappear. I don't know where disappear to. Okay, anyway, the point is that the accent of the people who cross the border does not have to be from the south. It's from the north very often, and that's why it matches in, and it comes with my research question today, if it works or not that I change the accent. Of course I did change the accent. I try to speak like a Vientiane, but first of all, I'm from Ubon Ratchathani, you know, as the same as Dr. Saudi Alexander is the same hometown, and we know what accent of Ubon people is like. And you know, I grew up with this kind of accent, and I've been practiced for years to speak like a Vientiane person. And I'm pretty sure, I'm very sure that it works, because when I went to Vientiane, you know, in Lao PDR is similar to Bangkok. When they collect tickets, Lao people pay the price of the Lao people, and foreigners pay higher price. It's the same as in Bangkok. And when I went to Watศรีสะเกษ and Hor Pha Kaew, you know, the place for Emerald Buddha, I was charged in the same price as Lao people, because you know, it could be assumed that I speak like a Vientiane person. And they asked me if I was Kon Lao, if I was a Lao citizen. I said yes, I am. so I could enter. I was just to try if my accent was working, and it was working at that time in Vientiane, and at that time in Khong Chiem as well, when I spoke with the lady who claimed to be from Vientiane. I spoke with Vientiane accent, hoping that she would trust me fast, she would trust me easily. But it turned out that she was suspicious even more. And you know, I asked why. I kept asking myself, why would not she trust me easily? And yeah, and I could find out the answer, that because these people thought that normally the customers who visit the karaoke bar would be from the local government people or the local school teachers, and of course they speak like an Ubon, and they would expect people who speak like that. But when someone who speaks, at first I spoke, when I entered the field, I entered the karaoke bar, I spoke in Ubon accent, and then I changed the accent to Vientiane accent, and the ladies were suspicious. How come this guy changed the accent? And later, when she trusts, and when we got closer, she said that at first they thought I was someone sent from Vientiane government to detect for illegal laborers or undocumented laborers. Actually, it was everywhere undocumented laborers, but it was not usual for someone to speak the accent of the Vientiane accent in Chong Mek, in Ubon Ratchathani. So in conclusion, you know, the informant was more suspicious of my intention for that case, and that happened 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm sure if I go to the field again and I encounter any person from Vientiane who come to work in the Thai-Lao border, in the southern zone, they would still be suspicious if I change the accent. So I would suggest that if you want to build trust, be yourself. Don't try to speak another accent. It doesn't help. It doesn't help in this case, especially is in the job that, which is, you know, you can see any border, you know, something which is associated with human trafficking, something which is associated with illegality. Just be yourself. Don't try to speak something which is far away. That backfires indeed. And that's the conclusion regarding to the positionality of the person who want to be in the field, who want to establish trust with the informants who are marginalized people and cross the border to find jobs in Thailand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. very interesting. Now we are taking questions. So anybody in the audience can drop in their questions in the QA box. And in the meantime, I have my own questions because I'm a linguist, right? And I'm always interested in studying sensitive issues, especially politics. And this is not strictly politics, you know, but, you know, as I said many times on many occasions that, you know, everything around us is political. Now, first things, yes, as a researcher, we always want to have trust by our participants, especially when we rely on, you know, field research and, you know, observing, interviewing, blending in with the people, you know. And again, we try our best, you know, using whatever skills that we have in order to gain the trust. And obviously, in this case, you know, when you sound too much like them, they suspect that you are a troublemaker. Right. So, but, you know, the first thing that came to my mind as I was, you know, listening to this, first things, you have people, you know, potential participants with so many different accents from Laos, and especially from the North. And so did you find an answer as to why there were so many Lao people from the northern part of the country in this part of Thailand? You know, why in Khon Chien, why in Ubon?
I will show you the map again. So many people from the north, but
right.
I found them here.
Right.
Actually, I didn't find the answer. It could only be a guess, just my speculation, because at that time, it was not about my research question, so I didn't pay attention to look for the answer. But my speculation is that they could have been really engaged with human trafficking. And when they crossed the border, they did not use visa. They didn't use working visa. They didn't use passport. Right. They came as a tourist. And if as a tourist, you could cross the border in a day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and as I said, 3 days, they disappear. And they might change the spot. I just speculate. Maybe they come from Mukdahan 3 days. Maybe they come to Canberra 3 days and meet Khon Chien 3 days and went back north again.
So are you suggesting that? Sorry,
they might,
go ahead.
I would not blame them that they are really engaged with that kind of human trafficking, but it's likely. If you look at other research, for example, Swear Molland, 2012, he has been conducting research about human trafficking from Vientiane and Nong Khai, but that makes sense because Vientiane and Nong Khai is just opposite, right?
Right.
And yeah, and but one argument is that he said that it comes from the family. When the ladies from Laos look for a job, mm-hmm. most of them did not want to do this job, but because of the family, mm-hmm. Have connection with the families who's been working in Nong Khai already, so they just send their children to work in Nong Khai. And in the same time, in the meantime, in Chong Mek, in Khon Chien, is a family connection again. That's why mm-hmm. they come, and family and friend. 3 days, mm-hmm. maybe just family and friend of a friend, maybe. I don't know. I didn't find the answer why, but surprisingly, a lot of northern dialect from Laos was heard here. Mm-hmm. Not to mention the human trafficking stuff at nighttime, daytime, in the market, sell meat. The different accent is heard in the market as well. No answer. The answer is no answer. Only speculation mm-hmm. that I might be wrong. I might be wrong, and I don't want to be. Mm-hmm. I don't want to really be assertive about it. Only mm-hmm. speculation that yeah, they're really engaged with this kind of human trafficking, and they try to escape from the authority to arrest them. That's why they change the place all the time.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Now we started having questions coming in. So right now we have 4. So let's start with John Clark's question, because it's very basic and to the point. And so you can illustrate this point about different accents. So the question reads, could you give some concrete utterances in Isan, well, Lao Isan and Lao, like Vientiane speech? Like a comparison of different, yeah.
For example, in Isan is like Isan has many accents, but in Ubon is one accent. So I speak Ubon. For example, somebody bo, how are you feeling today? Somebody bo. But in Laos, they wouldn't say somebody. They would say sabadi, and sabadi doesn't mean how are you doing. It means hello, which is different meaning, one different accent, another.
Okay, so the tone differences are pretty clear. Thank you very much. Now we have one question from Kun Surya Glangrit, if I'm not mistaken. He says, or she says, I don't know, I have been to Atapu so many times, if I'm not wrong. There's so many accents in the southern parts of Lao PDR, but why the Vientiane accent is the best communication tool for trust building for collecting data? Does it?
Because I'm not claiming that Vientiane is the best, but I'm claiming that using the accent, which is the same as the accent used by the participant or prospective informant, could be the best. So if they are from somewhere else, if they're from Atapu, I would change to Atapu accent as well, or maybe in Champasak accent, which is somehow is very similar to Sisakhet, but not quite. So it's not about Vientiane, it's about the accent, which is spoken by the participant.
So basically, you want to accommodate, their language choice.
I want to be like where they're from.
Yeah, we try that. We, a lot of us probably have this experience of, at least, scholars studying Thai politics or Thai studies, you would want to be able at least to, to speak Thai first, Central Thai, and then some other regional languages as well. So that is kind of natural and that's understandable. But the interesting part is that it's kind of backfired a little bit, right? So thank you so much.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the next question from our Duncan McCargo here. Apart from the question of accent, how did you explain your presence in the field? Did you tell the informants you were a PhD student or a lecturer?
I entered the field. Actually, if I resort to the ethics, I'm not supposed to tell lies. But I went to the field. I introduced myself as a teacher, but I talked to the director of Khongjiam Vithayalai School. I said that I was a PhD student, but I volunteered to teach English to the school students. And when I talked to the villagers that I'm a PhD student and I teach English, they could not understand. Maybe they just thought that I'm a teacher. When I introduced in Thai, เป็นนักเรียนปริญญาเอกแต่ว่ามาสอนภาษาอังกฤษเพิ่นก็ว่าคุณครู they just think that I'm teacher. They couldn't grasp the idea that I'm a PhD student. So I was known in the community as an English teacher, not a PhD student, even though I tried to tell them that I'm a PhD student, but they just grasped that I'm a teacher. So the idea of PhD student somehow was omitted in the scene. Only school English. Some people knew that I'm a PhD student. For example, the school teachers at school and my major informant, who is stateless. He is stateless. This family is stateless family, but they knew that I was a PhD student because I was sleeping in their house. But I don't know if they could. They knew that I'm not a teacher, but I don't know how much they know, how well they know about PhD, but they knew. But about other people, I don't know. Maybe they just knew that I'm an English teacher.
Okay. So they basically identify you however they would like to identify you.
Yes, English teacher, just that.
And it's easier to understand. That's totally understandable. Now we have another question from Kun Marty Nielsen. I'm just going to read it because, you know, just to honor the person, you know, writing the
Yes.
comments and questions. Thank you, Dr. Thanachate. Really fascinating and interesting insights from the field. I have a question regarding research ethics. Were you all the time honest about the fact that you were a researcher collecting information for your research, both as a teacher and in the karaoke bars? As an anthropologist, we're always collecting information. So the question about consent and honesty regarding the use of our information is always tricky. What are your reflections regarding informing the people you met about your research? This kind of reminds me of Duncan's question too. So what are your reflections?
Actually, they have to sign a consent form, but it was not my intention to just go to the first day and hand in the consent form on the first day. I would befriend them first until they knew me well. And I would ask them, are you okay? If they are okay to give me information. And if they're okay, I would just hand them the consent form about who I am, about what the data would be used. But at first, the first 2 months, I didn't mention about the research. But I said that I was a PhD student and an English teacher, but I would not tell them that I would come here to collect data. I would just befriend them first until I could see that they were easy and they felt that there was no harm. I would just start to ask them. So it took time. It was not in the first week or first month at all. But I made sure that every information that was used in the PhD dissertation or further research after I graduated was accompanied with the handwritten and signed consent form.
So I have a follow-up question based on this one. So from the moment you decided to tell them, because you started feeling like some trust, you know, occurred between you and the potential participants at this point, and you started talking about your actual reason for being there in the community. So how long would it normally take for you to kind of, you know, when you realize that they could be your potential participant and you start talking about your research, how long after that, you know, did it take you to get consent from them?
It really depends. The major participants, it took after 3 months that I asked them to sign. The major participants, 3 months, even though they knew, I think they were the persons, the family members. There were 4 people in the families and 3 or 4 relatives who crossed the border to work illegally from Champasak, from Paksay. So it took me 4 months or 5 months, even though they knew that I was a PhD. And normally the villagers would not recognize that I was a PhD student. They would say that I'm an English teacher, but this family knew well. So for this family that I trust the most, 4 or 5 months before I handed them the consent form. And not to speak about the people at the karaoke bars. I didn't ask them. I tried to ask one of them, but he was a LGBTQ plus owner, but stateless. I asked him, are you okay to talk tomorrow? Are you okay to talk about your occupation and your border crossing activities? And tomorrow, the next day, I would come and ask you to interview you, and I will have the document for you to sign. I asked him if he was okay. At first, he said he was okay. But the following day, I went to see him and I said, oh, I was busy. Oh, I have to do that. Could you come tomorrow? And they said, okay, I come again tomorrow. And the next day I came again and the same answer. that happened 3 times. So I could see that he was not willing to give me any information. But just talk is okay. But if he has to sign anything, he would not do it. He was stateless. He didn't have citizenship. And he was from Laos, and he was LGBTQ+. And that place was a restaurant, but he used a nominee. He used a nominee to sign to, you know, some kind of legal document to be a restaurant. And that place, oftentimes military officers and police officers came to visit to look if there was any undocumented laborers. So I understood him well, that the reason why that he wouldn't want to sign consent form. So that's fine. I understood. And this story was not mentioned in my research, but it was okay because if you ask about the accent, about the linguistic stuff, this person speaks Ubon accent. So, but the waitress in the restaurant came from Mueang Khong, which is in Laos. I think is in this area near Pak Se, Mueang Khong. So the accent was not that much different, a little bit different, but you know, you can change.
That I can see happening. Now, did you notice, since we are talking about accent at this point, you see any effort on the participants' parts, especially women, to try to accommodate the local accent, to try to speak with the Ubon accent instead of maintaining their own, you know, original or, you know, native accent from northern Laos, for example?
I didn't have a chance to talk or conversation, much time to talk about people from the north of Laos, because they just gone. They've gone only 3 days. But I was in the family of the people who are from the southern Laos.
Okay.
So there was not much difference between. Yeah, there's some difference, but not much. So it's easy. But some, you know, you don't have to talk about them crossing the border. Even if you cross the border to this area, you can hear Isan accent. In this area, in Laos, is Isan accent. Maybe they consume Thai television, I don't know. Or maybe they just cross the border to like in Thailand and they cross back. I don't know.
But again,
along the border in the restaurant, you know, it's not this time it's not about the accent. It's the lexicon. It's the lexicon.
Right.
For example, a bottle of water in Isan, it was, you say, น้ำขวดหนึ่ง but in Laos, น้ำแก้วหนึ่ง but in a plastic bottle, น้ำตุกหนึ่ง I heard น้ำตุกหนึ่ง over here in Khong Thiem, น้ำตุกหนึ่ง อาจารย์ Alexander, have you ever heard of น้ำตุก anybody speaking น้ำตุกหนึ่ง in Ubon Town? No. น้ำตุกหนึ่ง is a plastic bottle.
Very interesting. Yes. Wow. Thank you so much. Now we have another challenging question from Duncan. I think this is a nagging question for a lot of international researchers wanting to study Thailand. So the question reads, do you think for this kind of project, it was essential to be from Isan, Lao, Thai? Could a foreign researcher conduct this kind of project successfully, for example, or would informants be too suspicious?
You know, we talk about positionality. When you conduct a research, it's not only you who interpret the informants, but the informants interpret you as well. So if you don't look similar to them, maybe it's very the direction could go different direction. For example, you could not tell the informants that you are Lao, or even though you speak Lao perfectly, they will not believe that you are Lao. You are from Lao. But for me, if I speak similar to Vientiane, even though I try to tell them that I'm from Ubon, they would believe that I'm from Vientiane, you know, because of the appearance as well. So positionality matters in this kind of social research. social science research.
Wow.
No, I don't think so.
So well, then it also means that if you look different, like if you look like a Westerner, but speaking Lao, well, perfectly, the best you can, then they know that you are not from Laos simply because you look different.
Exactly.
And obviously, yeah. So it could be an element of trust because they don't see you as a threat, but you, Thanachate, because you look just like them, so they might suspect that you're from a spy or something simply because we look the same. So sometimes looking so different can be kind of can be helpful, right?
Yes, the look matters. I have another instance. It's not about this time. It's not about in the karaoke bar, but I accompanied my major participant to cross the border illegally to Laos. So I was illegal tourist to Laos. I sat in a boat with my participant from here, deeper to Laos. And whenever the Lao police came to detect illegal border crossing, it was very risky because if I was arrested, I could be jailed in Laos, and I could have to pay, have had to pay $5,000. But my major participant, he's from Paksay. He told the Lao policeman that I'm from Vientiane. And the policeman believed him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I could go to Laos illegally and come back safely. So look matters, and the accent just is an additional factor.
Right.
But imagine if I was a foreign and I sat on a boat and crossed to Laos illegally, and if the participant told lie to the Lao police officer that, oh, he's from Vientiane, they wouldn't believe him. So the way I dressed, I dressed like a middle class, and I spoke Vientiane. That makes sense. That's why.
Yeah. Okay, so you just have to see when it would work and when it wouldn't. Now, I have this question that I had when you started talking about some laborers wondering if you were a spy from the Lao government. Why would they fear being caught or found by the Lao authorities?
That time, that time, the time of my fieldwork from that I started doing the fieldwork, it was in 2016. But 3 months before I entered the field, there was a human trafficking cleanup decided by Bangkok. Military officer came to the field and they just shut I think more than 50 karaoke, 54, 52 karaoke bars in the area. 3 months before I entered the field. That's why, but some could still escape from that cleanup. So when I entered the field, they were suspicious of everyone. It's weird, strange, like me. Very weird, indeed. And I happen to know the trick that they could escape from the cleanup. For example, someone could be a mistress could have an affair with a naval military. I don't know. It was said in the village, rumors, and and strangely, sometimes when the military came for inspection, they just shut the karaoke bars, and that Lao ladies that were just friends to visit friends, they were not working.
So now I have another question. It's just too many questions. Do you find that being a man can be a problem, can be an obstacle to your own research when it comes to kind of learning from this karaoke workers?
It's being a man has pros and cons. Yeah, pros that like sometimes they knew that I was a potential customer, but being a man and being a teacher, is is weird. You teach at school during the day, and I went to the karaoke bar at 7, which is weird, which is strange, and I came back at midnight. But other customer came to the karaoke bar at midnight, and I left the bar at midnight. That's weird, because I don't want to go to school and was late for school, and everyone knew that I was a teacher. No one cares I was a PhD student. They knew that I was a teacher. So being a man was not an obstacle. Maybe there could have been, but being a teacher is a big problem for me, And imagine on the other way around, if I was female, it was even more difficult to gather this kind of information. So gender matters. That's why I said positionality matters. Class, gender, ethnicity, language you speak.
Okay, thank you. We have another question from Kun Ruani Tupas. Please excuse my pronunciation if I'm wrong. Thank you very much for the fascinating talk. I wonder about the impact of your research findings on the communities or the people you worked with, or perhaps the impact on policy, etc.
Actually, this the talk today, it was not really my research. It was just one observation of my main research, but there was no impact. But most of the information was written in this book on the left hand side, which is not at all about the language, but it's about border crossing in everyday lives. And people do not resort to official immigration checkpoint. They just cross the border. However, it doesn't mean that they are not border. Sometimes, if the government say that we will detect the border crossing, they just out of the blue go and collect people who cross the border illegally. We never know. We have to be local and know the officers and use. Sometimes I would argue the interpersonal relationship between the villagers and the local officers help significantly for the border crossing to be successful. And why this matters? It matters because Thai-Lao border is, when it is the river, it is 1,108 kilometers long. And this happens along the way. You just cross the border to visit friends, to drink whiskey. Still, even in COVID time, I have, since the pandemic of COVID-19, I have never been back to the field. But I believe people do cross still, even though with COVID. But there's no effect on the government yet.
Thanks a lot. I have final question. So since we focus on language, right? And we struggle to communicate. We think we say the right thing to make people feel good and feel like talking back to us, right? But did you have any challenges or experiences in, whatever you said that you meant so well, was taken, wrongly, or, things that you said that, it would be okay, but then they didn't receive it, very positively, kind of miscommunication at all?
This one, the change of accent. If I if I could turn the clock back, I wouldn't try to be like, speak like them. Sometimes, maybe I could speak like them, but not like them 100%. Maybe some 1% is wrong, and they could sense it, and that is wrong. If you are wrong, 1% is 100%. Like when we go to Bangkok and people who try to speak Isan and it's not 100% correct, we still right.
So in this case, being perfect is not a good thing.
Be yourself.
Okay, very good. Now we are pushing to the final moments. Would you like to kind of give our final remarks or thoughts on on the presentation, on the research or whatever?
Yeah, I would like to, if I have inspiration, I would make this kind of research project, but still I don't at the moment. It's just it's just a small observation from another research. I hope I have more inspiration. So, Ajahn Alexander, could you give me like in the future to bring this to be bigger in terms of academic? That would be wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, I'm humbled, but you know what? I think language is very important. Sometimes it can be an obstacle to our understanding of what people think and how they behave. Trying to be like them, that doesn't always work. And so, like I study, sensitive issues, and so, there's no way that I can study or interview a certain group of people, even though I speak the same language. So sometimes, being imperfect, being, from, outside of Thailand can help you to get some perspectives, because people are not restrained by suspicion or, knowing or guessing your intention and taking your intention in the wrong way. So I think there are limitations, and there are also, positive things about, being able to use a language of the people who we would like to study. But I want to make this point, and I think you agree with me, that if you want to study, it's good not to have an interpreter or translator when we do field research, right? Because our own interpretation can be as much of an obstacle in itself sometimes, because we have our background. I don't know, do you agree with that?
No, I don't need interpretation. I don't think we do need it. I have to engage ourselves.
Yeah, it's very, very important. But again, we have our own limitations too, right? As a researcher coming from a different class, from a different gender.
But indeed, being a teacher is really work. It does work in Southeast Asia context. Being a teacher really helps. And there also one time that being a teacher helped me. But maybe we have to talk in the next presentation.
Yeah, that's very interesting. But that is perceivable, right? Because we look up to teachers. We see teachers as role models in a lot of communities. So and what you would yes, very good. Now I think we have about a few minutes. I'm checking my QA box. No open questions, and so I think we are ready to bring this talk to an end. And so thank you very much, Dr. Thanachate Wisaijorn.
You're welcome. It's my honor.
Yeah, so I'm going to read this. So the next talk will be on May 12th. The title is Re-examining the Operation of Hate Speech in Thailand, the case of Buddhists and Muslims. Very interesting. Dr. Anwar Koma. So mark your calendar for that. And for today, thank you so much, Dr. Thanachate. And I hope you continue to work with us and produce interesting research work for all of us as a great contribution to Thai studies. Thank you very much, everybody in the audience as well, and for your questions and comments. I'll see you next time on the TS4 seminar series.
Thank you. ขอบคุณครับ สวัสดีครับ ขอบใจหลายๆ สบายดี
สบายดี ขอบคุณค่ะ